Hello, and welcome to another session with the TCPalm Editorial Board and our series of interviews with candidates who will be on the November ballot. In this session, we will be talking to the two candidates who are running for the District 2 seat on the St. Lucie County Commission. We have with us Sean Mitchell and Larry Leet, who are the two candidates. Thank you both for joining us. My name is Blake Fontenay. I'm a columnist and editorial board member for TCPalm, and I am joined by four actually of our editorial board members. My colleagues, fellow columnists Larry Reisman and Ed Killer, Louise Philippine, who is one of our reader advisors on the board, and Adam Neal, who is our executive editor. So without further ado, I will start with the questions and we will alternate back and forth as to who gets the first crack at answering a question. But Mr. Leet, let me start alphabetically, and I'd like to get your thoughts on development in the western parts of the county and what role, if any, that you think the county commission should have in trying to manage the growth in that part of the county.
It's one of my platforms that I am running on to manage growth, and the Fort Pierce beach area needs to be left open to the public. I do not like to see anything built that will clog that up any more than it is. So I would promote building out west. Obviously, I understand the running water lines out to that area to start developing, and I would like to see it actually become another annex of the either city of Fort Pierce or Port St. Lucie, and to build the area. There's a lot of land out there that needs to be developed.
Thank you. And Mr. Mitchell, the same question for you. What are your thoughts about development in the western portion of the county and what role county government should have in facilitating that growth?
Well, thank you for that question, Blake. One thing that we have in place now, it's called towns, villages, and countrysides. Years ago, they did hundreds of charrettes where the density in our county, we are the 20th largest county in size, but we're the 13th in density, and that's something we have to be cognizant of. Of course, there's going to be growth because people who own plotted lands should be able to build on it. But you also have to make sure that you have things as far as playgrounds, schools, retention ponds, and things of that nature, because growth is coming. They predicted by the year 2050, which is only 27 years away or 28 years away, we'll have a population of over 600,000 people. We have to get our infrastructure in place, our utilities in place, and things of that nature. So growth is going to happen. We're aware of that, but it has to be smart growth. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you. And let me start with you on our second question. This one is about utilization of Clover Park. And I'm curious to know if you feel like Clover Park is being utilized to its full potential. And if it isn't, then what other ideas do you have about how to increase usage of the park?
Well, thank you for that question, Blake. First of all, a few years ago, with state funds and from local tourism dollars, and tourism is at an all-time high in the county today, Clover Park, we did $57 million in renovations, and the Mets are coming to us now because we have not replaced their irrigation in their fields in the 30 plus years that they've been there. But we have a commitment with the Mets. They'll be here for another 25 years. Now, I was happy to see last year when right before the Summer Olympics, we had teams from Puerto Rico and the Dominican, the qualifying games, and that was good. It was great crowds to see after the pandemic, to see people and the loud noises and things that you expect at a ballpark. But yes, I would like to see more utilization for the Mets in the off season. we have 4th of July celebrations there, and we have the spring training, but I would be open to utilizing that park for more things. The city loves, people love coming to our county. It's a great county to live on, but there should be more things that the citizens of our county should be able to enjoy, and one of those things is Clover Park.
Any specific uses that you think would be doable in that space?
Well, see, with the field, and especially if we're going to go ahead with the renovations of that field, I would be leery of some things like concerts where that they could potentially ruin the field or mess up the field. But I would be open to anything suggestion-wise from our citizens, because at the end of the day, that's who we as county commissioners work for. So I would open up any ideas where the citizens could have input to it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Leet, the same question for you. Do you feel like Clover Park is being utilized to its full potential? And if it isn't, what additional uses would you like to see there?
I pretty much agree with Sean on that. It's a beautiful field. I did speak to the director of tourism about 3 or 4 months back, and his schedule is pretty full. And he had a lot of good ideas to bring in other activities. Unfortunately, what he is telling me is he has to divide them out between the other 2 counties to utilize them. But absolutely, I am open. That is a great person. I'm trying to remember his name, the director of tourism that is bringing in all of these events. He's got a very good handle on it. But yeah, I am open. I agree with Sean. I wouldn't want to do a concert out there and ruin the field, especially with the renovation they just did, which is absolutely beautiful. But it can, there are weekends where there's things that we can put out there, but we really need to be talking to the director of tourism and getting some ideas there and expanding it out.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Leet, let me stay with you for the next question, somewhat related question. What other recreational and cultural amenities do you believe the county needs?
I asked that question to him, and his big need right now is a multiplex indoor stadium, multi-use, where we actually talked about it somewhere out by the fairgrounds, talking with some other people with the Bell property in the Fort Pierce area. They don't want to sell. But what I did hear is the daughters that are controlling it want to leave a legacy for their father. And when I heard the director of tourism telling me that they need a multiplex stadium, I think it'd be a nice idea to try to get a hold of the Bells and see if they'd like to build a multiplex stadium out on their father's property. And that could also bring in revenue and jobs for the areas in Fort Pierce that need help and need money put in and need jobs. So that is one thing that I would look into. If not, I'd like to figure out how to get one out near the stadium, because he claims he could fill it between the volleyballs, basketball. He went on with a list of things that they can bring in and bring in tourism dollars. But we obviously, as Sean was saying earlier, we need the infrastructure. One of the biggest problems that they have is finding a hotel with a restaurant. The only one we have is the Hilton, and we do need more hotels. I'm trying, he had a level or specific name for it, but bottom line is a hotel where people don't have to leave to eat. So that is part of the infrastructure that we need to try to pull in along with the people to build the multiplex.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mitchell, same question for you. What type of cultural and recreational amenities would you like to see added in the county?
Thank you for the question. We recently, the county bought 200 acres near the fairgrounds, for future park activities. We also have a wave park that's coming into off Midway Road, which not only be a wave park, but it'll also, they're speaking about like where you just, like a lazy type river thing. I know that my children go down to Stewart for those activities, but I would love to have them here. Also, I know that they're building the downtown area. It was just at the governor awarded $2.7 million for the, I believe it's called King's Landing, where they'll have a restaurant and those type of amenities. But there are needs. And we have the biggest age group that we have in our county is 55 and older. I'll be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony on this Friday about on some pickleball courts, which is for people my age that were, maybe you can't run as fast as you used to be able to. Your mind says you can, but your body says no. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have older citizens living in our county. So we have to make sure, although we'll build parks and playgrounds, we have to make sure that we include the senior citizens and the people my age and older that live in our community.
Thank you. Let me start with you on the next question. Mr. Mitchell, what can the county do in the way of wastewater management? Are there some areas that you think could be improved?
We just started a few years ago. It's called septic to sewer, where we know one of the biggest polluters for our rivers and our lakes and our estuaries is septic. And we've created a program where we'll work with the citizens where they can amortize it on their mortgage to transition over to septic to sewer. I think that's a big part of what we need to do the right things here in our county. And as I alluded to before, when I talked about the population growth and how many people are moving actually into our county, we have to get ahead of the curve. If you see the traffic on St. Lucie West and things of that nature, it wasn't properly planned. And I've always, my entire adult career, is the 5 Ps: proper planning prevents poor performance. And we have to get ahead of the curve, and that's utilities, water, and things of that nature. So we know we've been very fortunate by creating good paying jobs here in this county through companies like Amazon, FedEx, and Cheney Brothers, A1A Trusses, and things of those nature, where these are good paying jobs that turn into careers. But for those businesses and the residents that are going to move here, we have to make sure that we've got proper infrastructure and water and retention ponds and things of that nature. And it was a good question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Mr. Leet, what are your thoughts about wastewater management? Are there areas where the county could improve in that area?
Absolutely. I was speaking with Kathy Townsend a while back about that, and she was telling me about North Beach, and I believe that's what Sean was speaking about, converting the septic into sewer. And absolutely, I agree. It needs to be done. It's killing our lagoon, and I would support anything to do that. Obviously, you're going to get pushback from the public because of the cost, but I believe that if you can explain to them the importance of it to saving the lagoon, it's a pill they would swallow. And, I agree that you need to turn around and have some type of program to be able to finance that for them so that it's not putting them out, especially in today's difficult economic times.
Thank you. And since we're talking about water, let me stick with you for the next question about that. Do you feel like there is a role for St. Lucie County to play in dealing with the pollution coming from Lake Okeechobee? And if so, what is the county's role in that?
To my knowledge, outside of staying on mass to try to have the water sent south. Lately I'm hearing from friends over on the West Coast and Cape Coral. It's where they're sending it now, and they're having all the problems that we had in the years past. I know that they are working on it. Brian has been adamant about getting the reservoir built and sending the water south like it normally should be. So I would support that. As far as a county role outside of supporting it, I'm unaware of anything that we could actually do. But if there was something, obviously I would want to be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, same question. Is there more that the county could be doing, should be doing with regard to Lake Okeechobee and the pollutants that are coming from that source?
Thank you for the question. Again, I've spent a lot of my adult career lobbying, never for a certain party, but for causes. And I think we have to work diligently with our state legislatures and the Army Corps of Engineers, the South Florida Water Management District, to make sure, because everyone knows Florida is a tourist state, and we've tried to change that thing up and make it more diverse, and we've made a lot of progress with that. But we need clean waterways and clean beaches and rivers and things of that nature. I was so proud last year when we did a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Petraeus Preserve, and that was scheduled for 88 condominiums to be built over in White City. But the father had wanted to leave a legacy to his daughters, and through partnerships with the county, with our citizens, and with the federal government, we were able to preserve that. Now you have kayaking and people that are have handicaps to get into the kayak. They have a machine that'll bring that kayak down. So it's vital and important for us to work with our state and local legislators to make sure that we keep our waterways, C-23, 24, 25 canals. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. And let me start with you on the next question. You just mentioned economic development. Tell me a little bit about ideas that you have for things that the county could be doing to encourage economic development. And if you could talk a little bit beyond the tax abatement program. I know that's obviously a piece of it, but if you could elaborate on some other ideas for promoting economic development.
I appreciate you asking me that question, because 4 years ago when I ran for the first time, I said I was a job creator, not only a job that turned into jobs, but into careers. And we've had a marvelous run here in the county, working with the EDC, working with the Chamber of Commerce to create good paying jobs with benefits. And that's a very, very important subject matter, because only a few years ago, 84% of the people that lived in our county rode outside to go to work every day. We have it down to 61% today. That means, just like I did when I first moved here in 1991, there were no jobs for me here. I drove down to Palm Beach County every day, and that was 40 hours a month, that I spent driving, and that could have been more time for my family or doing things in the community. So we're headed in the right direction. A diverse economy really helps, because when you get big businesses come here, and even if you give them the tax abatement, which I'm glad it passed, because it's every other community and every other county in the Southeast does that. We were able to keep Maverick Boats and some other companies here, and it's a tax abatement, but I want the citizens to know that that tax abatement is only on the general fund for the county, the school district, the fire district, and everyone. There's no abatement there. And it's been a great tool for us, working with the EDC and working with the chamber to create good paying jobs in our county, and people can be able to stay home in their community and not have to drive out of the community to go to work each and every day.
Thank you. And Mr. Leet, same question. What do you think that the county should be doing to promote economic development, particularly beyond the tax abatement incentives that are in place now?
I actually think the county's doing a very good job bringing in, as they term it, the targeted businesses, all the ones that Sean had mentioned. Where I see it needing help, I've talked to a lot of local businesses who are a little bit discouraged with the permitting and the regulations. I had one gentleman that bought a $1 million mulcher, and it took him 2 years to get the permitting and the place up and running. And that's just not right. As we all know, local businesses employ the majority of the people. The larger corporations are obviously an asset, They bring in the career type jobs, the career type money. But we also cannot forget our locally businesses that are needing our help and making them grow along with the community. I would be careful when we do bring in these big businesses that they aren't hurting our already existing businesses. And so far that I don't see that happening. But I do believe that we need to pay a lot more attention to our local businesses.
Thank you. Let me ask you a quick follow-up on that. Talking about streamlining the permitting process, are there specific areas where you have an idea for how that could be done?
The work, the gentleman that I was speaking about, he couldn't get anybody moving, and he finally got somebody on the commission to go out there after he presented pictures and files, basically just, do it. It didn't take that long once he actually got the people to start, but it seemed like the way he was talking, everybody had to be pushed to do it. And again, it took him 2 years. And I've talked to several other people in the same aspects. It's getting the permitting and the red tape to open up these businesses sometimes is difficult. So if I would like to see a way to streamline that, to put deadlines on when they have to be done by, rather than pushing them off to the side and having somebody go, "Oh, we'll get to it tomorrow." It needs to be done right now. I've been in business all my life, and you can't run a business that way. You shouldn't be running a government that way.
Okay, thank you. And let me start with you on the next question as well, Mr. Leet. What can the county be doing to improve its stock of affordable housing?
Yeah. Outside of lowering impact fees, I don't know too much you're going to be able to do. The market itself looks like it's going to start correcting. I watch the news every morning, and the rumors out there, or the analysts out there, are now saying we're going to be seeing roughly a 20% drop. Obviously, the county commission has nothing to do with that. But when I hear that to build a home, you have roughly $17,000 in impact fees, and in today's economic climate, we need to address that. I don't know how much that will actually help, but every $10,000 is roughly $50 a month. So you got roughly $100 a month just in impact fees. And I don't feel that's fair to the people, especially when they turned around and voted in a 0.5% tax for road improvement. It seems like every time I came out of the Illinois area, it was starting to remind me of every year. It's, we need more money for the roads, and every year they get worse. Fortunately, down here, that isn't happening, but it seems like the taxes just keep going up and up and up, and we just need to put controls on that.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, same question. What can the county do to encourage more affordable housing?
Well, thank you for that question, Blake. But the question you had asked Mr. Leet before was about how can we streamline permitting and things of that nature. So I'd like to address that first if I have the opportunity, because the Planning and Development Board launched a new and expanded electronic interface that actually will allow all customer interactions online, from initial plan reviews to building permits to scheduling inspections and seeing the results. This new system will increase efficiency, and it'll also provide a level of customer service not previously attainable. Now, as far as workforce housing, when I ran 4 years ago, I was about creating jobs, and we've done a marvelous job with that. But you're right, workforce housing, not only here in our county, but throughout the state and a lot of the country. Now, one thing I was happy to see was Blue Sky Communities. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's up in Fort Pierce, and it's 188 units. $42 million in federal dollars to help for workforce housing. But I don't know if you all know, but the 3 Ps, public-private partnerships. If we can work with developers, work with contractors, and work with people in the community, because I can tell you firsthand, I have a daughter who is a 7th grade math teacher in a public school here, and 53% of her gross income goes to her rent. She's trying to buy a house. She's put bids on 3 or 4 houses. And unfortunately, somebody will come in with cash that'll offer 10% more. So we have to work more diligently with our partners in a private partnership with the public and private. And we've got to work hard to make sure that people can not only work here and play here, but they can afford to live here also. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with you on this next question as well. What role, if any, do you feel that county government has in addressing climate change?
Well, climate change, whether we want to believe in it or not believe in it, it's here. We've seen extreme weather patterns here. And I think one of them is, as you talked before, about the phosphorus and the nitrogen that comes into our water. Things of that nature is, as far as simple things like don't use Roundup in the rainy season in the summer. And I don't know why. They're still on the shelves in the summertime. But to educate our citizens the dangers of what you do in your community, to make sure that we don't, your ambition in life, whether you're a farmer or an elected official, is to leave the earth in a better place than where you found it. And I'm a strong proponent of clean waterways and things of that nature.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up on that. Talking about Roundup or potentially other types of herbicides, is it possible? I mean, has anyone looked into the legality of actually having a county-wide ban on those types of products?
I'm glad you asked that, Blake. I have asked legal in the last month or so to look into that, to see what we can and can't do. There's a lot of things that I feel are no-brainers sometimes, but sometimes as a county or a municipality, you're preempted from doing certain things. So I look forward to getting a response back.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Leet, same question. What role do you see the county having in addressing climate change?
Well, as we all know, yes, the climate is getting hotter. Personally, I believe it's cyclical, and I think that it'll pass. Whether that'll be in our lifetime or not, I don't know. As far as what the county can actually do to prevent that, I don't know. We have the government basically right now trying to fund everybody with solar panels to decrease the amount of fossil fuels that we are using to power our homes. Obviously, the cars are going into the electric direction. The one thing that everybody is talking about as far as going to electric is the electrical grid. So I would be wanting to talk to Florida Power and Light and Next Gen on how we could enforce our infrastructure to be able to handle the additional power that is going to be needed in the direction that we are currently going. So I would be working, like I say, with other companies. The private partnership is something that I am all over. I believe in it. I believe in putting as much power back into the private sector as possible and keeping government limited. But I believe that is one way that we can do our small part to address the issue at hand.
Thank you. And let me stay with you for this next question. Do you feel like the county has too many special improvement districts? And if so, is there a way to reduce the number of them?
I'm not familiar with what you mean by special districts.
Fire district.
Okay.
There are a number of community development districts. There are really a litany of them that I think there are dozens of them in St. Lucie County right now.
So you are talking about the fire department, police department?
Well, not them specifically. But I'm just wondering if there are any special districts that you feel like the county could do away with.
I do not. No, I don't. I don't see anything that they are currently doing. I would change a few things, and quite frankly, not to change the conversation, but we are coming into a housing, or excuse me, a homeless crisis, and I believe we are going to need to address that. I have talked to Sean Boyle at the Children's Service Council, which I'm not sure if you ever spoke to him or are aware of that, but he has basically corralled 37 nonprofits so that when he gets a phone call, he can outsource all of that through the private sector. I would like to see that expanded out into the homeless. I am getting my petitions signed. I heard numerous stories about people on fixed income making $2,000 a month, and we all know what the rent is now. You know, the lowest that I can find out there is about $1,800, and people just can't afford that. So they're either moving out of the area, but the one thing that we can do, I believe, is partner with our private industries, get a system in place to funnel these people through, to correct any mistakes that maybe they had, to get them back maybe into the workforce or additional income, to prevent them from leaving the county. They've made their home here, and I don't think it's fair that through no fault of their own that they have to leave because they just can't afford it anymore.
Thank you. And Mr. Mitchell, going back to the question about special districts in the county, are there too many? And if so, is there a way to reduce the number of them?
And it's a great question, but I just received my trim notice. And if you're talking about, you have the St. Lucie County, our general fund. You also have jail and the law enforcement. You have mosquito control, the erosion district, county parks, and county transit. And then, of course, and you have, state law, state local boards, cities, South Florida Water Management District, Everglades Project. And then you can get into local, like you said, the St. Lucie County Fire District, which is a taxing authority on its own. It's a pass through for us when we can send out our budgets. We don't decide what their millage is. That's a separate entity altogether. But you have, as was alluded to previously, you have children's services where we fund things through children's services. And we do have, I'm not so sure that to get rid of these different districts, you could hypothetically lump it all together, but I think it's more clear and transparent to our citizens when they get their trim notices that they know the breakdown, because so many times you've heard, oh, St. Lucie County has the highest millage in the state. And although that may be true, the lowest millage in the entire state of Florida is in Monroe County, the Keys. You want to know who has the highest taxes in the state of Florida? Is Monroe County. If you take your assessed value of your home times your millage, we're right slab dab in the middle as far as taxes in the state of Florida. Would I be open to hearing some discussion if there was a potentially someone would come forward with a plan to maybe condense or things of that nature? Of course, I'd listen to the will of the citizens, and God's graced me with 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, so I would be willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to see if other editorial board members would like to jump in with some of their questions. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Leet on his questionnaire talked about the need to make things more affordable, to basically cut taxes, I think, or to reduce them. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Leet, but what would you specifically cut? Can you answer that question to start, Mr. Leet?
I think he's muted.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody muted me somehow. Anyway, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Like any other business, I ran an $8 million jet company out at the airport. You know, you've got to get into the books. You got to get into the numbers. You got to find out where the fat is. Do I believe we can trim? You always can trim. You know, do you want to cut services? No, you don't. But can you do both at the same time? You know, I don't know what the revenue stream has been for the last year. Do we need the excess money? I attended and watched a lot of the county commission meetings, and I understand the bank account's pretty fat. You know, in these tough times that we're going through, which are going to be temporary as they always are, you know, maybe we need to look into digging into the savings rather than increasing taxes. Tax revenue is a total different animal than a revenue stream in a business. It's always going to be there. People are always going to pay their taxes, whether it's on time or not. But if we've got the cash in the bank, we should be able to cut millage rate and live off the savings, so to speak, until we get the economy back turned around, and hopefully affordable housing will play, or excuse me, not affordable housing, but hopefully the reduction in home pricing that's coming, we can turn around and reassess the entire county, like we did back in, I believe it was 2008, 2009, when they basically just started all over and reassessed everybody's housing. And I see that coming again. So that's one way to cut. But again, you know, I would have to get into the budget, look at the fat, see where we're at, and see what we can trim. And I don't want to cut services. I think everything we have right now is important. The one thing I will say that talking with people out on the street, and I went to the St. Lucie Academy, which by the way is, if you all haven't done it, it's very educational. They basically take you through everything that the county is currently doing and why they're doing it. And I had no idea. I've lived here since 1983. And I had no idea these services are out there. And I consider myself a pretty intelligent person. We need to get the communication out to the people of all of our things that the county has to offer. And especially into lower income areas where the need is substantial and growing.
Thank you. And just one follow-up question related to an answer you gave earlier, but you talked about the need for an indoor multiplex stadium. In your opinion, who would build that?
Yeah, again, private public partnerships, and I wish I could think of it. Sean, if you could tell me who the tourism director is. Anyway, that gentleman, he says, we can get people to build it. He said, everybody will want to build it and put their name on it. And he was very confident at that. He said, the problem is the upkeep and the maintenance. But if we have all of the all of the revenue coming in from the people for the events, we should be able to put that off to the side. But like I say, I would talk to the Bells, number one, and then start talking to other people. According to him, he said finding somebody to build a building isn't the problem. He said it's paying for it month in, month out.
Thank you. Going over to Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Leet suggests there's something to cut in the budget, whether it's going into the reserves or whatnot. You sit on the commission, so what do you see in terms of the budget, and what do you see can be cut, if anything?
Well, thank you for the question, and it's important question to ask. First and foremost, this is my fourth year. Now, the first year I was elected into office, the following year was year 5 of a 5-year plan, and they kept the millage the same. And as you fast forward, we had Dorian. If you all remember, Dorian was coming straight at us, and by the grace of God, it hit the Bahamas, unfortunately, but we were scathed. But I remember looking over to Howard Tipton, who's our county administrator, when we were doing a press conference at the Emergency Operations Center. And I said, Howard, how much do we have in reserves if Jim Cantori is coming to St. Lucie County? And he said about 7 days worth. And that made me cognizant of the fact that in my previous profession, I sat on health insurance plans and pension plans, And you always have to send not an amount, but a certain percent in reserves, not only for natural disasters, because FEMA may come in and help you, but it's called clawbacks. And sometimes, and it's happened here in this county and throughout the state, where you don't dot every I, cross every T, and they claw back that money. That would have to come from your reserves, or a downturn in the economy. We've been very fortunate. For the last 3 years, we've dropped the millage this year, 0.3499, which is the biggest cut in millage and a tax rate in over a decade. If you take the last 3 years of the millage reduction that we've made, it's over $18 million, which would have been recurring dollars. So over a 10-year period, that's $18 million in savings to our taxpayers. Is there always ways to cut and to save taxpayers' dollars? Absolutely. For example, we reduced our footprint on county-owned property by 25%. And that's maintenance and everything else. So we don't have the expenses we have. We've done some really good things with transit for our elderly people and things of that nature. So we've been a watchdog. I think you've got a great commission there that we were dedicated, and we promised the citizens that we would reduce our millage each and every year, and we have, and I'm proud of that fact.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Next, let me go to Ed Killer. He had a question.
We'll start with you, Mr. Mitchell. The question I have is recently a visioning section was just completed for the Port of Fort Pierce. I know the city's also involved, but also the county is. What is your vision for what happens next at the port?
Thank you for the question, and that is going to be a big plus for the county. Because director was hired, and subsequently we went into the pandemic, and a lot of their parts for their large lifting device, which is the largest one in the United States, it got delayed. But I was just out there 2 weeks ago for a meet and greet with the different people, and they were alluding, you were mentioning the Bell Sisters before. We're in negotiations with the Bell Sisters also, the county is, where we could take two roads from Fort Pierce, which they have, it's like a nowhere zone where nobody uses these roads and they've deteriorated. We would like to use those as a county, along with the property that the Bell Sisters have, to turn it into a more transparent, huge place where we can get the tourism dollars. Not only that, but things that these multi-millionaire type yachts, where I went and saw one a few weeks ago, and this thing is, oh my God. They have boats inside the boats, and it's just high-end yachts, which will bring big dollars for our community. You partner that with the King's Landing, where they're going to be developing hotels and things of that nature. We have a foreign free trade zone out at the airport. We can discuss that. I hope that's some questions that come up regarding the airport. But these are all positive things, which when these are incorporated, it'll take the relief off the homeowner taxpayer and put more on the businesses and the people that are thriving in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Leet, the same question to you. What is your vision for the Port of Fort Pierce?
I right now, outside of developing the area where the 12A buoy is at, as Sean had mentioned, Decor has come in and pretty much taken that over. I like the direction that is going. We do need more hotels down there, which, as he mentioned, King's Landing is coming, but we do still need more hotels to be able to accommodate that. The director of the port is also the director of the airport, and the two combined have a lot of synergy with the type of businesses that we have coming in with the mega yachts. Obviously, these people also own jets, so I could see the airport benefiting from people bringing in their yacht, hopping on their jet, and going, "Oh, we got a paint shop here. Let's get our jet painted, or a new interior, or whatever." So the two ports, the airport and the seaport, I believe are moving in the right direction. I encourage that. I actually am more involved, as you may or may not know, at the airport. So it's sort of my little thing. I love planes. But I'd like to see more involvement there for jobs. I like to get with the IRSC and get what they call an A&P school out here. A&P is Airframe and Power Plant. It's something that you can tie right in. Not only will you bring in students from all over the world, but you'll also have high-paying jobs coming through that. And again, tying it in with the decor and the clientele that they have, I think it's a perfect match.
Thank you. That's all I have, Blake.
Thank you. Adam or Louise, anything you'd like to add at this point? Okay. Well, we are coming up against our time, so I would like to give each of you an opportunity to make a closing statement. And in this, you can use the time however you would like. If there are issues that we didn't touch on, you feel free to bring them to our attention, or just tell us why you feel like you're the better candidate in this race. And please just keep it to 2 or 3 minutes if you could. And Mr. Leet, let's start with you.
Very good. Well, if you watch my video on my bio, I was totally against the mask mandates and the forced government shutdowns. I do not believe they worked, and it's pretty evident they didn't with the number of people that have died. But what it did is it killed our business. And I don't like that. You know, I am, being a Republican, you are for limited government, limited taxes, more freedom, and also personal responsibility. And I believe that's what needs to be emphasized throughout our community with everyone of all income brackets. And it's something that I see our current governments, and I'm not specifically talking about the St. Lucie County, but just overall, it seems like the government wants to be your daddy for just about everything and raise taxes. And I do not want that. I want to see limited government. I want to see limited taxes. I want to see more freedom, and I want to see more personal responsibility of the citizens to have control and destiny of their own lives.
Thank you. And Mr. Mitchell, closing statement, please.
Thank you, Blake. First and foremost, it's been an honor to serve as your county commissioner and your current chair this year for the last 4 years. I believe we've done some fantastic things. St. Lucie County is one of the fastest growing people want to come here. But let's touch about, like, during the pandemic when, the governor and everybody at first, they didn't know what was going on. We closed everything. But we gave out $2.4 million to 415 different businesses here in this county to help them stem the tide. We also gave $14.7 million in rental assistance to over 3,500 residents. And we came out of this, our tourism is at the highest it's ever been. And although other parts of the state and even parts of the country saw a downturn, our unemployment numbers now in St. Lucie County are hovering around 3%, which is even better than pre-pandemic. We have to train our young men and women for the jobs of the future. That's my background. I've been a jobs creator my entire life, and not only jobs, but jobs that turn into careers. I'm cognizant of the fact that you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, you have 1 mouth. I've spent a lot of my time. I'm not the kind of elected official that you only see the year that he's going to be reelected. I've stayed out in the community, and I ran on a platform of people over politics, and I lived that every day. I have just as many Republican friends as I do Democrats. And there's so much dysfunction at the federal level and in certain parts of the state, but not here in St. Lucie County. We all want the same things. We want we want good paying jobs. We want low taxes. We want good infrastructure, and we want safe streets. And I was very proud that last year when we had some American Rescue Plan dollars and CARES Act money, that we gave the Sheriff's Department over $5 million for tasers and for body cams. Not as only does that protect the detective or the deputy, but it protects the suspect, and that's important to me. To be sustainable, again, if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I'm going to focus on workforce readiness, working with the school board, Indian River State College, Kaiser, as well as Career Source and the various building apprenticeship programs to match our job training with the jobs that we're creating. I want to ensure that our transportation network keeps pace with our growth, collaborate with our local and state government officials. I've done that all my life, never for a party or for politics, but for causes. I have a daughter who's a Down syndrome daughter. I've advocated for Special Olympics and for training dollars for apprenticeship programs. And I'll continue to work on our quality of life to foster a high quality of life regards to our public safety, our clean waterways, our recreational and our cultural opportunities. And again, I'm proud. They say if you love what you do for a life, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love being your commissioner. And with your vote, I hope to remain there. Thank you all so very much.
Okay. Thank you to both of the candidates, and to those of you who are watching this video. I hope that this has been helpful and will inform your decisions in the November election. And for additional information about other races, please check out similar interviews that we've done, and also the stories and recommendations that we've made on tcpalm.com. Thanks again.